Hey crafty people! Welcome back to my channel, and in case you're new here, I'm Sarah, also known as Craft Nerd because I'm a nerd who loves to craft. I do paper crafting, card making, junk journaling, and mixed media art. Let's get crafting! Welcome back, and in case you're new to my channel, each month I do one video where I work on a Christmas card or several Christmas cards, depending on what the card idea is. And this way I figure come December, I will have 11 cards already done so that I'm not frantically crafting like a lunatic at the holiday time to try and get my Christmas cards done. So for today's Christmas card, I've pulled out, this is the background I did in a video, I think last year. I know it was last year, I'm just not entirely sure when last year. So I'll try and find that video and link it down below. And it's a Simon Says stamp, I believe, in 3D embossing folder, and I just kind of inked that up going along with the pattern on the embossing and kind of grungied it up. And what I'm going to do is add a bird with a top hat and some greenery to make him Christmassy. So I've got out, these pieces are for the Tim Holtz Sizzix Colorize, and sorry if there's glare because I kept the pieces with the dies, because if you're not familiar with the colorized dies, they actually have etched on the back what color they go with on the packaging image. So this is brown 1, so this is the first layer of brown, so that it helps you when you go to color your pieces and cut them out. And so this way I decided to keep them with their die to make it a little easier when I go to assemble this fellow. So I've got him out, I've got the background, I've got some greenery from the Tim Holtz Sizzix Festive Gatherings die set, which is 666333, in case you wanted to know. And for his top hat, it's the Tim Holtz Sizzix Tailored die, and that's 666289, and our bird is 665857. And so my plan is, for the bird, we are just going to, I die cut him out using watercolor cardstock, and this is from a pad by Arteza, which I got fairly inexpensively off of Amazon ages ago. So that's what we're going to use for his body. Now I cut his base body out in black because it says black, and this is pretty much all that's going to show once we layer up is the feet, eye, and beak. So that's that piece. For the rest of him, I'm going to do a mixture of brown and red, I think. So let's start the two base layers. I know these two are going to be brown. So let's go ahead and do those. And I'm going to bring over Crafty mat here for inking on. And I'm going to start by this one. I am going to grab a brush and we're going to base coat it in brown. And I'm just trying to decide, I think this layer, I am going to go super dark and ink with Scorched Timber. There's not a lot of this one that's going to show, but I'm going to ink the whole thing because I think it's just pretty much along here and over here that it shows. And you may be noticing now as I'm inking that you're seeing embossed lines on it, and that is to help you line up the next layers of the piece. So we're just gonna give him a coat of a nice dark Scorched Timber brown. And then for the next layer, we're gonna go, I think I wanna go Gathered Twigs. Oh yeah, I think I like that one for this layer. And I'm just being careful on the little pieces so I don't rip them off. All right, I am going to bring over the piece and start layering it so I can get some idea of what colors I want to go with for the next couple of layers. So see, that goes on there like that. This lines up like so. And a dog wants to come in the house. So let me go do that. All right, so this one goes on next. And it goes here and there. So I think I'm gonna do those pieces in brown, and then this piece goes there and there. I think I'm gonna do red. All right, let's do that. And as I'm looking at this, I'm like, I want to do a little bit more brown on here with the gathered twigs. So let's set him aside for a sec, grab this over. Mostly so that there's contrast when we put the next layer on, because that one we're gonna go a little bit lighter. That's these pieces, and I'm gonna grab my vintage photo. Let's use a smaller brush for that. And I'm just rubbing it on a damp towel and then drying it off on a dry spot. And you want it to be damp, not wet, because you don't want the bristles to be wet. And that's mostly because it's kind of dark. So whatever was on here before might have been a darker brown, and so I want to lighten it up. Okay, so we've got this. That. Okay, I want to add a little bit more interest to these pieces. So let's set everybody off to the side for a minute. Okay, so I want to add a little bit more interest to these. And again, with the back layer, since I'm not entirely sure how much we're going to see of it, like even holding this on, it's like, okay, a couple spots there and there and there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start by grabbing the Scorched Timber Oxide and put a little dab of it on my work surface. Grab some water. Wet it. Gonna run my fingers through that. Then I'm gonna take this piece and tap it down in some places. And now I'm gonna grab my heat tool and dry it. I think I'm gonna do a bit of the straight Scorched Timber Distress ink over here. Where's that? I can't find my small spray bottle. Kind of break that up a bit. Do a little bit into that. And again, hit it with my heat tool. Then I'm just gonna grab some plain water. And a Yeah, this is like a basting brush usually used in the kitchen, but I find it makes for some interesting splatters. Give it a sec. Do that. And just make sure it's completely dry. I'll hit it one more time with the heat tool. Now you notice the piece is kind of curling. If I hit it with a little water on the back and dry it, that should flatten it out. It's a little better, but not much. So there we go. So that's that layer. And I think the water I dipped it in, I used for cleaning off a brush, and I was using the purple watercolor distress pencil because the blobs have like a slightly purplish tint, but I'm not mad at that. All right, I think I am. I think I'm gonna just go ahead and glue it onto the body. No, I'm not, because I'm gonna end up putting the body in water and then that'll be a problem. So we'll set that guy aside. I'm gonna grab, all right, I don't have gathered twigs in Oxide, so we're just gonna use some gathered twigs distress ink. Again, do this, but I'm also gonna dip it into the Scorched Timber as well. Again, I'm gonna splatter it with some water. I think this time we're just gonna put some on the mat to use so that I don't. That was a bigger splatter than I wanted. And I think I may come into the colors and do my on screen. Okay, good. A little bit of splattering. Now I know Tim Holtz has his splatter brush, which I actually have, but I find I have a harder time using it than this guy for some reason. I don't know. It doesn't work as well for me as my little silicone guy. All right, so let's. That is going to layer on top of that, like so. And then we've got our last one, which is our vintage photo. So let's find a spot on the mat here to add some vintage photo and spray that. All right, I am gonna pull out Stress Oxide and Antique Linen. I don't have a lot of the oxides in browns, so we're gonna add a little bit of that to our mat just to add some light spots in, and we can kind of blend those together so we make like a lighter brown. I'm gonna set this aside for a sec because I've got some branchy bits that need the browns, so might as well do those while I've got the brown out on the mat. I'm just gonna kind of go around and get this piece brown. It's gonna be hodgepodge brown. that can get set aside. Let's clean this mess up. And then we'll assemble what we've got so far of the bird and move on to a different color. Let's glue what we've got down. And I should have grabbed, and I will for the other pieces, my Barely Arts glue, because that gives me a little bit more time to wiggle the pieces around if they're not quite lined up where I want them. Start by the eyeball, since that's a pretty big spot and it's easy to see. And then I'm gonna just use the indentations, which, because I didn't get this very wet, I can still see. If you are going very wet in your technique for coloring, you may end up with the lines kind of fading out when you wet the paper heavily. At this and it feels too light. I think I'm going to come in. Actually, let's go ahead and glue this piece down. I'm going to grab a brush and just add a little bit more vintage photo to try and knock those really light spots back a little bit more. It got too light. All right, that's better. And now we're gonna move on to red for the next pieces. I'm gonna grab my lumberjack plaid. I want these to be a little darker, and the top pieces, which are the last ones we're going to add on, I want a little lighter. So let's actually go ahead and ink these with the lumberjack plaid. All right, so the next step for these two pieces, which I want to go a little darker with, is I'm going to grab a smaller brush and some aged mahogany and bring in some aged mahogany onto these pieces. Add a little bit more lumberjack plaid to these, try and darken them a little bit. So we're going to do the same thing we did before, where we add some water and dip, and I'm going to add a little bit of the lumberjack plaid oxide, and we're going to do the small pieces first because I want to make sure I don't get them in the whatchamacallit, aged mahogany, because I want to keep them bright.
going to set these guys off to the side and let them just dry on their own while we work on this one. And I think I've got aged mahogany oxide. I do. Feeling that's going to add too much lightness. Let's add some more aged mahogany distress on the mat and kind of blend them in together. I am going to do pretty much the same process to color the berries and the leaves and the top hat, but I feel like it's getting a little tedious. And so I'm just gonna go ahead off camera and finish inking everything up, since you've seen the basic technique. And that's what I'm gonna do for all of the other pieces. So I'll be back in a little bit. Okay, so I have finished coloring and assembling the other bits, but I figured we'd finish doing the bird on camera. So let's add the rest of these pieces to our birdie. There was another piece from this die that I did not color, but it's white on this one, so I'd like to say I did that on purpose, but no, I just missed it when I was doing the inking. And then the little speck for his eye is a separate die, and I have cut that out, and I've already got it on my quick stick. So we're just gonna stick it down in the glue. Uh-oh. That did not work great. Got glue everywhere and quick stick stuff on it, so let's try and clean that up a little bit. Right, we're gonna leave that and let it dry, except it just came off on my finger. Okay, we're gonna redo that. And this time, because we don't need all that much in wiggle time, we are gonna set it down. Use our art glitter glue, which will grip faster. That was way more glue than I needed. Problem is it's sticking too much to the quick stick, which is supposed to make this sort of thing easier, but it's being difficult. Right, now that he is done, and I'm gonna see once it's dry if I can wipe the quick stick residue off his eye, and if not, I'll just come in with a pen and a white pen and go over it. All right, so here is our card base. I got our greenery done, and I figured we'd do a little bit going this way, and I'm purposefully letting it hang off the edge, and then I'm just gonna trim whatever's sticking out after we are done. Try not to get glue everywhere. So let's go ahead and glue this down. that. I'm gonna do that, so if we have glue seepage, it will seep onto the cloth and not our project. Then I will wipe off my mat. Kind of trying to decide, I think I may want to snip the edge of this. And I'm just gonna grab a dauber and ink the edge so it's not white. And she snipped it at an angle. So we'll try that again. There we go. Do it like so. Let's ink that up just in case it ends up showing. I put the glue mostly on the spots that are going to be off the edge. Go me! I think I'm going to use a little bit of foam to pop up the hat because he's got so much dimension on him. Let's place the rest of our greeneries. A bow tie because, you know, he needs to be dapper for the holiday season. And I've got, these are black foam squares and they're fairly thin because we just need it to pop up a little bit. I'll just put a little glue along here to glue it to his head. Now I'm looking at it going, I probably should have doubled those up. They should have been a little thicker. I thought the thickness would be enough, but it's all right. It's doing okay. I'm looking at it and I'm thinking it needs a holly leaf. All right, give me a sec. I'll be right back. Okay, so those little holly leaves are from Christmas Minis 665567. And I didn't feel like dealing with the berries that come with it. So we're going to just use some liquid pearls. So let's glue those on. So yeah, I just die cut them out real quick and added some ink. Now, I did all of the inking for the parts. You, of course, could just cut a die like this out from colored cardstock. Now, usually if I do that, I will add a little bit of inking like along the edges just to give it a little bit more personality than just straight cardstock. But again, that's totally up to you. I really like the inked look of die cuts. I think it gives it a lot of pop and personality. All right. Let's do a few little dots. Now I'm going to stop squeezing and rotate it around to keep from having that Hershey Kiss shape you sometimes get with like liquid pearls and similar products. So there we go. I'm gonna let this dry, and when it's dry, I'll come back and show you what it looks like. Oh, we do need to fix that eyeball. Let's see. Try an eraser. Meh. All right, let's grab a white pen. There we go, good as new. All right, so again, I'm gonna let it dry and then I'll come back and give you like a close-up look of what the pearls look like all dry, and then we'll be done. Okay, so it is all dry. Let's give you a little close-up. So what the berries look like. Here's some close-up of the details on the inking of our bird. And unfortunately, I have not been able to find a video where I did this background. I thought I did it in a video, but I can't find it. If you would like me to do a video on how I created this background or do a similar background, just let me know in the comments down below. I'd be happy to do that once my new die cutting machine comes in, because right now I can't emboss anything because my machine broke. So that's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, please do all the things that lets YouTube know you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave me a comment down below. Thanks for joining me, and happy crafting.